Welcome to Cybersecurity District, the podcast where we interview the most inspiring minds in the cybersecurity industry. Get ready to meet our next guest in the district. Today we're joined by Yusuf Öztürk, the CTO and co-founder of VirtualMetric and the original brain behind their platform. Next to Yusuf is Jimmy Wind, the CEO of the company, who joined 2 years ago, and it helps to scale and accelerate the company's growth. I'm very excited to have both gentlemen on the show, as I personally believe VirtualMetric is one of the coolest, but especially smartest scale-ups in the cybersecurity space right now here in Europe. And I'm not alone. Investors see the same potential and they're heavily investing in the future growth of the company. They recently onboarded 2 big investors. So I think it's very interesting to have them on the show at this particular moment. And in this episode, we will dive in the origins of VirtualMetrics, how the company is evolving today, and where both of these leaders see the future of cybersecurity and of data security for the next foreseeable future. So Jimmy, Yusuf, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us, Laurens. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
To Jimmy, maybe to start with you, you recently have been working for another startup and scale up for a couple of years, but still, say 2.5 years ago, you decided to join VirtualMetric. What potential did you see in the company?
Yeah, so my previous startup, I was in IoT, and I can tell you that's much harder. Like they say, hardware is hard. So I was dealing with hardware, with certifications, with components, and with COVID. So basically, after we came to the conclusion that that wasn't going anywhere in the future, I looked for something new. And via my network, I came into contact with Ali and Yusuf, the founders of VirtualMetric. And I had a first 2.5-hour meeting with Yusuf in Leiden. I remember it pretty well because I was sick. So after 2.5 hours, I had to tell Yusuf, we have to stop now because I have to throw up. But I had a really good conversation with him. And he explained about his agentless data collection technology and the amazing 99% compression and the power that brings to basically improve IT and the performance in IT. So as a technology enthusiast, I was gripped by that, and I saw the potential, and I decided to pursue orientating and starting with VirtualMetric, which apparently was successful.
Yeah, and now you guys sitting here together. But what or how would you describe the features and the functionalities of what you guys offer? What makes it stand out?
So as I just described, so the key capability what VirtualMetric is very good at is collecting telemetry or log data agentlessly and then processing it very fast with a specific data format. And speed and the capability to process large volumes of data is very important. It was very important in IT monitoring, but that was very competitive and companies that we would speak to would say, okay, we already have monitoring solutions, so yours might be a bit better, but why bother? So thanks, but no thanks was a frequent answer. We spoke to cybersecurity companies as well at the time, and they told us about the importance of log collection and analysis. And we started thinking maybe we should look there. So we did a bit more research in cybersecurity. We spoke to companies in that space, MSSPs, consultants, and they told us about the issues with SIEMs. SIEM solutions, as you know, at the heart of the Security Operations Center. The software provided by Splunk, Microsoft, Google, all the big vendors that collect all the log data and basically look for threats, analyze that, and do reporting. And we heard continuously that these SIEMs, they come with big problems. So we thought, we have this great capability to collect and process data. That is something that these SIEM solutions are struggling with. So we did research, and we pretty quickly decided, right, Yusuf, to create a product which would solve these SIEM problems, which led to us being what we are now currently, a security data pipeline company.
Yeah, because you mentioned something about problems with collecting the data. But what I hear a lot is also there's another big problem that it's hell of expensive to collect all the data, and then your Azure bills or your Google bills are just through the roofs. Do you also provide a solution for that?
Yeah, so that's the main problem indeed. So collecting the data is one, that's also an issue. But the biggest pain point is the cost, because all data, if you want to be thorough as a company and you want to make sure that you analyze all your logs for threats, you have to put everything into the SIEM. And then the SIEMs already start charging you for that. So you pay for 1 terabyte a day or 100 gigabytes a day, depending the size of your company. And once the data is already in the SIEM, you paid for it, then you start processing the data, you start filtering it, you start enriching it, you start putting it into the right format, but you've already paid. And what we basically do is say, okay, we do the pre-processing, we collect the data, we parse it, we filter it, we enrich it, we put it in the right format, and we already put it in the right table in Sentinel, which saves them a lot of cost, because instead of paying for 100% data ingest, they pay for 20-30%, because we filter out all the irrelevant data. And this solves the main problem, which is the high ingest cost. But there's also other problems, because if you put all those data into tools like Microsoft Sentinel, they cannot cope. So they basically get clogged, their performance goes down, and it can take up to 15 minutes before an important alert gets noted. And when we pre-process all the data, we also speed up the performance of Sentinel and make sure that important alerts are picked up more quickly, which is obviously important if you're being hacked. And the third problem, so these SIEM solutions, they're not only expensive, but they're also very labor intense. So you have to have a lot of people to, once you collect all the data in the SIEM, you have to do all the processing, parsing, filtering, transformation, when you've already paid for the data. And we automate the whole process. So we automate the process from raw logs to getting them into the right table in Sentinel, which also saves up a lot of time. And every CISO has top of his agenda, how can we make our SOC more efficient? So we also help with that. So we're more than just a SIEM invoice cutter.
Yeah. Well, that's a big selling point, of course. It's nice to come in to companies and say, hey, we can save you a lot of money. So that's very interesting. Yusuf, just one question for you in between.
Yeah.
Why is it so important for these big corporates that they store all these log files? Like what's the reason behind it? Because some companies save it like for 12 months and it's so intense, of course, all this data that needs to be stored. Why is that important?
I think maybe one of the main reasons is the insurance, because they want to make sure that when something happens, at least they have the audit or some kind of logs about that, so they can go back and then find about the problem, or maybe they can do some threat hunting, basically. So for that reason, they would like to collect all kind of logs and then store really long time. But of course, that brings the cost problem. So we are like focusing on, okay, still bring the data, but let's bring the right data to your SIEM. So you can filter out the unrelated data into your maybe another environment, like maybe blob storage or maybe Azure Data Explorer. So it's a bit cost efficient environment. Still, you can store really long time. You can still search, find about all the threats later on, but only the related data goes into your SIEM. So you can still do all kind of alerting and other activities in your SIEM. So it's a really right balance for the security engineers.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
really. That's why I'm also so enthusiastic about what you guys are doing. Now it's very much focused on Microsoft Azure, but I understood you're already looking into other SIEM providers as well. What's the strategy there? Because I would think, okay, why is Microsoft not doing this themselves, and why are other SIEM providers, why are they not able to do this themselves? Do they just want to coexist with you, or would they at some point think it's maybe smart to bring these gentlemen into our big corporate organization and we can try to do it ourselves? What do you think, Yusuf?
So Microsoft always likes to work with the partners. I mean, they are focusing on to the maybe bigger problems, like, for example, unified security platform. Especially now they're merging the Sentinel with Microsoft Defender. So they can give like a better security for all kind of Microsoft companies, the users. So they're focusing more into the bigger picture, maybe better detections, because Microsoft is putting billions of dollars into the security. But obviously, collecting the data or shifting the right data to the right environment into their SIEM is not their primary focus, because their focus is just the security. So the companies like us, or like partners like us, because we are an ISP partner of Microsoft, we can help customers to automate and then bring the right logs to the right table. I think that's the main difference, I guess, because that's not the Microsoft's main focus area. So we are really happy to close the gap and help them enhance the Microsoft Sentinel or Microsoft Azure. And we are also very happy to help Microsoft MSSPs. So that's bring them a lot of automation and time-saving opportunities. So we are really happy with it.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Jimmy, you're more the commercial guy. So with this product, you help companies have their data enrichment in a smarter way, perhaps even more secure way, but also with the goal to potentially lower their SIEM costs. But there I would think, is that then in this case for Microsoft in their best interest? So you will help them make happier customers, but by doing so, you maybe also cut the Microsoft Azure bill. So maybe Microsoft is losing some revenue because of you guys.
That's a good question, Laurens. So for some customers, that might be the case, right? For the big corporate, the big banks, the big telcos, which spend millions a year on Microsoft Sentinel, Microsoft would lose some of their revenue by reducing their bill. But there's also an important second and third category of target customers for us. And the middle customer target is customers that are spending a certain amount on their SIEM, but they don't have much more money than that. So they have, let's say, 500K to spend on their SIEM. But if they want to put all their data into the SIEM, they might pay $1 million. So what these companies do, they selectively leave out data sources. So they don't put their firewall logs through the SIEM because they cannot afford it. So for those customers, we help both the customer by enabling them to get all the data sources into their SIEM, which also makes their SIEM perform better. They don't lose any relevant data, so they don't miss any important alerts. And we automate the process as well. So these customers we make happier. So Microsoft will be happy with that. And then there's a third category of companies that, and we spoke to quite a few of them, that would like to buy a SIEM, Microsoft Sentinel, but they think it's too expensive and too complex. So those customers, we lower the threshold to start working with Sentinel. And if you combine these three categories, then we basically help make the Microsoft Sentinel product more attractive across the board, increase the net promoter score for Sentinel, and last but not least, increase the market share for Microsoft on their Sentinel product. So, and that's also the feedback we get from Microsoft, because 2 weeks ago we were at the RSA conference in San Francisco. We also spoke to the Microsoft security people there, including the head of the Sentinel product, and he was excited because he, as I just explained, sees the potential of our product basically enhancing the Microsoft Sentinel product in multiple ways.
Incredible. That's a really nice validation. Yeah.
And also MSSPs, Yusuf already mentioned them, is an important group. They are focused on the mid segment, and also by using our product, they can speed up their own process of onboarding new customers. So they can also, with our tool, onboard more Microsoft Sentinel customers and increase their market share and the quality of what they deliver to their customers.
Yeah, it sounds so perfectly thought through, and perhaps even so easy. Like, well, why are other people not thinking about this? But Yusuf, you started this idea many years ago, and then you, together with Jimmy, also pivoted along the way. Yeah. But I think you really have now the sweet spot. But can you take us back to the beginning phase when you're just considering to start something yourself, and this idea came up, and also curious about the name. Like, super curious to hear that.
So I'm actually a mechanical engineer. I started my career like that, but I always had a passion in IT. So I started a job in hosting company, hosting/data center. And at that time, there was no cloud. That term wasn't invented yet. It was just about virtualization. It was new thing. And I met with the Microsoft virtualization at the time, Hyper-V. And we were one of the best. That company that I was working was one of the first Hyper-V virtualization provider in the Turkish region. So the problem at the time was the automation of the product, because it was new product. There was no monitoring, there was no automation, and then you're trying to sell that to the many customers. So you have to spend less time to bring that service to the customers. So that's where I started working on the automation, like scripting, a bit monitoring, because something is down, you need to know. So before your customers even notified that, you can basically act and fix that problem. So that's how I started my journey. And then later on in a different hosting companies. And then I I moved to a bank, a large bank. And at that time we had one of the biggest Hyper-V virtualization environment in Europe, because that was really a Microsoft focused bank, let's say. And we had a lot of servers, I think more than 1,000 physical machines with, I think, 10 to 20,000 virtual machines at the time. So it was a massive environment, and it was a large bank. We had all kind of teams, like security team, back office, virtualization team, very spread. And then each team had like different agents on the machines at the time. And we were the main guys. We were working at mission critical systems, and we were responsible of keeping the bank up and running for the customers. And those agents were giving us all the time issues. I mean, we were managing it. We had to do like a patch nights at the weekends while everybody was resting. We had to go to the bank, start in the middle of night, like 3 a.m. So probably any system engineer would have the same story in the past. So we were patching all these agents, and the problem was the agent at the time still the same. You can't patch an agent during the office hours, because if something happens, then of course the issue will be even bigger. And then that led me to do my own monitoring, basically in the company. It had to be agentless, so I can basically deploy the new updates to the machines. And we had thousands of machines, of course. It should have been really easy to deploy and get the data in real time, because some traditional solutions were taking maybe logs every 5 minutes. So it wasn't enough. So that led me to do all kind of monitoring, coding. And then I started sharing with the teams. They were all really happy. They were seeing from all the data from a single screen. I was sharing that with the security teams and some other teams. And then product became really mature in the bank. And then I met with my partner at the time, Ali. And then we had this idea like, hey, maybe we should start a company and then bring this technology to the more customers. But he was like, yeah, let's build a company in Holland, because he already had business here. So I moved to Holland like 10 years ago. I had no friends or no relatives here. It was very interesting times. But I was in the late Spain. I was living in there, so it helped a bit. So in the first years, it was nice area. I mean, more live area at least in Amsterdam, right? So it was nice. And then the product became even more mature. We had a lot of enterprise functionalities. One of our first customers was Avanade, the joint company of Accenture and Microsoft. We added more and more functionalities. But I never said, for example, we were a monitoring company. We were really a technology company. We were focusing what kind of issues they have and how we can solve that issue very easily for them. One of the feedback from Accenture at the time was, hey, your competitor had the similar functionality and they had 7 pages of documentation. You have like a just half-page documentation. We just do that and it works. How? I mean, how is this possible? So we were like, yeah, that's because most of the things are automated for you. That's why we are working on it, because we want to make your life easier, because we are coming from the same background. Most of the other companies are just working with the developers, so they are not sharing the same pain with you, but we know that pain because we are coming from the same background. So that was, I think, what made us really unique, because we were sharing the same problems with them. We knew what kind of issues they might have in their really a busy IT life. So we always made a better technology for them to use. That's brought us today here.
But Yusuf, what I find this very interesting because
Yeah.
you identified a problem that the whole bank in Turkey was seeing back then. And then you come up with an idea and you talk to your colleagues at the bank and they all like this idea. So
Yeah,
some of them might also think, hey, just develop this product and it could become a product of the bank. So that was also maybe already a bold move to think, hey, wait a second. It's probably better if me and Ali would just do this ourselves. But then you left that good corporate job in Turkey.
Yeah.
And you just flew to the Netherlands and without a job here, it was just full on, let's build a company here.
Exactly. It was really brave and big risk, actually. I mean, you had nice job, nice salary, lots of network, because I was also Microsoft MVP for like about 5 years. I had a lot of network, Microsoft network. And then all of a sudden you're just focusing into a startup idea in a country that you don't know yet. I mean, it's everything new. So that was really big risk, but I want to take that because, I think maybe I had entrepreneur feelings at the time.
But you join or you start a company, then there's no revenue yet. So that's also always the first months and years are always very, very scary. Then you develop slowly but surely the product. You get in touch with Avanade, Microsoft, Accenture. So things are looking up. But I think the real critical moment is maybe to make the pivot towards cybersecurity and data security. Because why did you think you needed somebody like Jimmy, Yusuf?
Because I was just a tech guy, and then we needed a commercial background person. So Jimmy was the best.
But you were also persuaded by an investor to do so, right? Because
Yes.
they were speaking to Team Capital at the time, who recently invested in our company.
Yeah, great guys.
And
They've
they
also
said,
been on
and
the
they
show.
and they said, you have great technology. We believe in the technology. Yusuf, we believe in you. You have nice customers, because besides Avanade, we also had Turkcell and Turk Telecom, the two biggest telcos as customers. But they said you need a better commercial strategy and you need senior management to grow the company. So they basically said, Yusuf, nice, but find yourself a senior manager. So that's what they did, and they came in contact with me. So I was excited. I had this 2.5-hour meeting with Yusuf. I did more due diligence. I had to do a pitch for them as well. I needed to make a plan before they did serious vetting before they let me join their team.
Yeah, of course.
Which was pretty good. But then I spoke to obviously people in my network that ran companies, CTOs, and I told them about the product, and they would say, nah, looks really nice, but we already have 5 tools. We spent 3 years building that, so no thanks. It would be a big effort for little gain. And we also had a sales funnel. We extended that, but sales cycles would be long because the sense of urgency projects would be pressed on pause. We did have a few big wins. Commvault, for example, big US software company, bought our software because they wanted something per second instead of per minute. But that basically, didn't take away that we had to do the conclusion that it wasn't going fast enough and that we weren't solving a big enough problem. And I think that's what a lot of startups face. They have great, cool technology, great features. It's awesome, but how big is the problem that they're solving, and how urgent do customers need to buy their products because they need it? So we had to go to the drawing board and see what we could do with this great agentless technology that Yusuf just described, and do something with it which solved bigger problems. And that's how we stumbled upon the SIEM. We thought about the product, and then later on we found out that what we were doing was actually a telemetry pipeline, because we didn't know about that category yet.
Yeah.
And people would ask us, okay, so what you're doing sounds a bit like Cribble. Cribble is our biggest US customer, competitor, by the way. And we were like, okay, Cribble. And then we looked it up, and it sounds a bit like what we do. But we do it better, obviously.
Yeah. And it's good to know there's a market.
Absolutely. And also Gartner, Forrester, they all write about this new category, telemetry pipelines. And they say, if you have a SIEM, if you don't have a pipeline tool, you should, because otherwise you cannot cope with this ever increasing amount of data. You have to do pre-processing. You have to filter. Otherwise, your SIEM will not perform, and you will not have a high quality, very efficient SOC operations.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think that the future looks very bright now, and it's interesting because I'm sitting here with two entrepreneurs, but you both don't have a strong cybersecurity background, right?
We have 1 year experience in cybersecurity,
but we are quick learners.
but so we learn quickly, indeed. But what we also do is we focus on a very specific part of cybersecurity, right? Because we let the cybersecurity experts do the detection and the hunting, etc. What we do is the plumbing. So we lay the foundations to make sure that all the data that they need to work on is good, it's filtered, it's processed. So we basically give them a good opportunity to do their hunting analysis. So we're basically we're doing the plumbing for the real cybersecurity experts. We make their life easier by removing a lot of manual stuff and slow performing tools. We make it fast.
So for you, Jimmy, the ride has been rather short still, like 2.5 years. Since then, a lot of things have moved, and it seems to be going quite well. You pivoted. There are now investors on board. Of course, it went to a crazy roller coaster probably. But for you, Yusuf, you've been doing this for many years now. So you came here with a rucksack and you landed in the Netherlands. But what would you advise other entrepreneurs that are considering to build something? Because you really need to have the stamina to do this for many years. And you sometimes start and you end up in cybersecurity, a completely different path that you initially thought of.
Yeah.
What would you advise other youngsters that have the same drive?
Yeah, that's really a good question. And what I would probably recommend them, don't try to change the behavior of the people. Just find the pain point and focus on that and try to bring like a painkiller to that problem, because changing the behavior of the people is very, very hard. And that usually has to come from really top level. So the top can bring to the all mid management and then the down, so they can do that change. But that's very difficult. That's why we were like seeing that, hey, this is not going fast, because we have to bring that momentum for every company. But now just focusing to the pain point, just solving that problem for a specific area is making this way easier to go into the companies, introducing the solution, because just introducing the pain and then like how we are solving that, it's really easy for the people to understand, because they always have that problem. So my biggest advice, like just find that problem and then focus on there and start from there, and then you can build and maybe make it even broader in the future. But it's always nice to start small, very focused, and go like that.
And on top of it, I think founders should have the flexibility to pivot. So what you see with founders, I spoke to a few recently. They are convinced that they have a great idea, they have great technology, and they want to make that successful. But I think a lot of big startups they did a pivot, and most startups did several pivots to really find the right product market fit and find something which solves big problems and has a big target addressable market, because you have to be able to have you need a big market in order to scale your startup.
Yeah, it relates a bit to a previous guest. He's an angel investor, mainly in cybersecurity, Mahdi Abdulrazak. He's a super inspiring guy, but I think he invested in 9 different companies. And I asked him, what do you look for when you want to make an investment in an early startup? And he said, I don't care too much about the product. I just care about the founders and what type of people are those guys and girls. Because if they're that good, they always know a way to serve the customer and pivot. And it really it relates to you guys as well. Like you started with an idea what's very different than what you're doing now, but along the way you've pivoted. But I think the name has always stayed the same, Yusuf. VirtualMetric. Can you walk us through it?
Yeah, VirtualMetric is actually really easy. It's coming from virtualization metrics. So because our root was from the Hyper-V monitoring, later on we added many different virtualization stacks like VMware and then OpenShift, and then we went into the server monitoring network, became like full infrastructure monitoring plus log monitoring, but the name stayed same because it's basically virtualization metrics. We love the name. It's now maybe not really suitable for cybersecurity, but it also represents our core values, like where we came from. And then we are still, even in the cybersecurity domain, we are focusing at the big data, because cybersecurity engineers focus onto the threats and maybe solving that. But one of the big challenge there is the big data, because they have to handle the massive datas, and that's not their actual core job. So as a infrastructure monitoring background company like ours, the name also I think fits there, because we bring all our previous experience to this field, and then we are helping to the cybersecurity.
We couldn't have been able to create the security data pipeline product that we have now without the infrastructure monitoring heritage that we had, because that created the foundation for the technology. It's as soon as the Foresters and the Gartners and everybody says that this is an important market, obviously there's a lot of startups flocking into this market and setting up a pipeline tool. But I think from a both scalability, the performance of processing lots of data and automating the whole process, I think we're pretty unique, because it's easy to say, okay, we have a pipeline tool, we can filter data and we can convert data. But with most of these tools, it's still a lot of manual work and no scalability. And if you really want to have a pipeline tool which serves as a foundation for your SOC and your SIEM, you need to make sure that you don't filter out too much data, that you can assure that all the data is being collected, because you don't want to lose any log, not only for a threat hunting perspective, but also for auditing perspective, because that's also more and more important. So all these features, the performance and the data integrity and the secure filtering is very important, and makes it a robust but flexible tool. But without the heritage, we couldn't have created this. So we think the VirtualMetric name, it's a nice founder story, and it adds credibility to the product we have now.
For sure, yeah, I think it's very suited, and it's good to stay true and loyal to the roots. So that's very interesting. And you also, Yusuf, said that you have been in a Microsoft MSSP for
MVP, most valuable professional.
Yeah. So that showcased that you know Microsoft very well. But you're now in a point where you're also looking at the other vendors, the SIEM vendors like Google. That they might use very different products, same as Splunk. What's your strategy behind that? Because now it's Microsoft Sentinel that you're focusing on, but how quickly do you expect that you can deliver similar products to different clients that use a different vendor? Because I think for your competitiveness, that would be an amazing step, right? If you can serve different vendors, so you can serve different customers. But what's the approach there? Because you have a strong background in Microsoft. So where do you see this growing, serving other vendors, and how far in the process are you?
So we will still keep focusing on to the Microsoft, but we know that even some Microsoft customers, they still use maybe different platforms as well. And even they keep using their cloud SIEMs, they can still have like a legacy SIEMs in their own environments, because some customers might have many different locations, 12, I think we have 13 max now, 13 different regions. So each region has big data, and then collecting all the data and sending to the cloud, sometimes it's really difficult. So we should bring additional integrations to those customers, but our main focus will be still in the Microsoft, because just focusing to that area helps us to bring more and more tailored solutions to those customers. But other than the Microsoft, I mean, integrating with the other solutions are not that difficult, because most of the time they use the generic APIs or the similar ways. I think the biggest challenge is to, after the bringing the data, turn that into the right structure for the target SIEM. That's why our pipeline engine is designed to make that very easy. We have lots of normalization and different processors. We have now more than 90 processors to help customers to use no-code processors to make that transformation very easily for them. So for that case, they can easily transform and then apply the filtering and then send to the target SIEM solutions.
Yeah. Okay. So the focus is on Microsoft Sentinel, but it's just the integrations with other vendors and tools that they use. So it's not a strategy to go hard on Google Chronicle as well and build something exactly similar for Splunk and Google, for instance. Jimmy, looking at you.
We will do that later. So the focus that we have on Microsoft now has two reasons. One, like Yusuf explained, it allows us to do a deep integration with the product and really put the data in the right format, in the right table, which not only brings a connection, but brings the automation and brings a bigger reduction in the SIEM bill. And it also gives us a lot of focus in marketing and sales, because we can go to Microsoft MSSPs and we can go to companies, and there's a lot who have a Microsoft first policy, so we can really help them by not integrating just with Sentinel, but also with Azure Data Explorer and blob storage. And before we go to other SIEMs, we first want to optimize that, and then we will extend to others. And then if we want to onboard Google or Splunk, we also want to do more than just throw it over the fence type integration, but really have the deep integration like we have with Sentinel to really add more value than just being a dumb layer in the middle, which still requires a lot of manual filtering, like other tools do, which provide any to any type integration.
And I think the Microsoft market is big enough, gentlemen.
It's really big. Yeah. I mean, they are one of the leaders in the SIEM segment, and they, like Yusuf explained, put billions into the security market. So we're good for now.
And one of the trends that we of course also see in cybersecurity is AI. There's a lot of buzz around it. For the foreseeable future, you probably have to think about this as well and maybe incorporate it in VirtualMetric. Yusuf, as the CTO, what's your take on that and where do you see opportunity?
So for a better AI, of course, you need a better quality of data. And then the telemetric pipeline solutions, basically a right fit for it, because we get the data and then we help you to trim that data in a good way. And we already have lots of AI ready processors, so they can also apply on their data like AI logic as well. So just to make the data more suitable for the AI, you can put that data in the heart of your entire operation. You can apply your AI strategy on top of that, and then it will become a best solution for the company. Yeah.
So you see it as a complementary add-on. So it's actually an opportunity to make the product even better.
Yeah, because for AI, you need to have data, better quality data. It will bring the better results.
And Jimmy, as a strategist, are you not worried that some smart AI will be able to copy the product? So is that potentially also a threat to the existence of VirtualMetric?
I don't think for now. Maybe you've seen it. The CISO of JP Morgan recently did an open letter, and he's very scared and skeptical of AI being part of the whole data processing, because it leads to unpredictable outcomes. And you don't want unpredictable outcomes when it comes to cybersecurity analysis. So what we do is basically we automate the whole process without AI, making sure that everything we do is solid and predictable. But having this predictable, solid, reliable foundation then adds the possibility to do automations based on AI. But then these automations are based on the right data, which makes it controllable and secure. Instead of when you do the AI inside the pipeline, it can lead to a mess.
And we discussed a bit the starting of the business and the pivot and Jimmy joining, and now you're in an interesting phase where two investors come and join the ship, and they also see the potential. Microsoft sees the potential, so there's soon going to be a lot of money on the bank account, and then you need to scale, grow. what are the plans around that, and how do you feel about it? Because it's a new area where some companies do amazing, but it's also a difficult moment. You need to probably onboard new people, you need to attract new people, you need to keep people satisfied. So it's probably a new phase for both of you that you're stepping into. How do you feel about it, and what's the way forward from here on?
Yeah, I feel very excited about it because obviously this is a pivotal moment in the history of the company where we get the investment. We have the product, the new product ready. We have the first big MSSP who's just bought the product and will roll it out, which will also act as a great reference customer in that sense. And we need to grow. So we have quite an ambitious hiring plan for the rest of the year to extend our sales force, extend our marketing team. Things like customer success. So we really have to grow the company and also grow our cybersecurity knowledge. So we did onboard a bit of cybersecurity engineering in our engineering team, which is we're still in Turkey. So we have a headquarters in Amsterdam, and our engineering team is in Turkey. So we have a cybersecurity engineer, but we will need to add more cybersecurity people. Also, when we extend our sales force, we ideally would like to have sales and pre-sales and marketing people that are from the domain, so that they can quickly understand how to talk to both the CISOs, the SOC managers, as well as the engineers, who are obviously the target audience for our product. So exciting. And one thing's for sure, we have a great product, but being able to hire the right people is critical success factor number one in order to build a successful company, because the people make the company.
And Yusuf, for you, the same question. How do you feel knowing that you've dedicated so much of your professional working life to VirtualMetric? This must be exciting times now.
Indeed. I mean, all the years of hard work, and now seeing that the company is growing, like more people in the company, more ideas, more talents. It's great for a founder. I mean, what can you want more, right? As a founder of a company. So it's really exciting, and I'm looking forward to see that. Yeah.
And the collaboration between the both of you is also new. Like, you have different backgrounds. One gentleman from Amsterdam, one gentleman from Istanbul. So that's also a new phase that you're almost like a married couple. You really need to talk a lot and understand each other. But also, for instance, with onboarding new people, you probably have your own ideas around that as well. Like what would suit well, like what are the characteristics that we need in the company? How do you go about finding the right people, making sure that the culture that's been there throughout the years remains in the company? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah, so the good news is we've been able to see how we can work best together over the last 2 years, and it goes really well. So we're really complementary.
Yeah.
So because mostly, so I'm sort of the business commercial person. He's a tech person. So there could be a gap, but he's a tech guy with quite a good business sense, and I'm a business guy with quite a good sense of technology and how it works. So we have a bit of overlap, so that helps us really understand each other. I understand what he needs, and vice versa. So we I think we do a good job also jointly deciding what people do we need to hire, and we talk to everybody we hire both, so that we can compare notes, and we both need to be convinced that it's the right hire before we go ahead.
Yeah. And Yusuf, what do you look for when spotting talent to join your company?
So I usually, for the tech part, I usually check their experiences and what kind of work they are doing, because just looking to somebody's CV is not maybe enough. So I specifically look what kind of things they're focusing. I go to their back experiences and trying to find the gem in there, and then trying to find similarities, and then the same focuses, same passion about tech. So if we find that connection match, then we are like, okay, this is the person that we want to work with.
Yeah, and for the both of you, I think now there's around 15 or close to 20 years of entrepreneurial experience. What type of characteristics do you need as an entrepreneur or as an employee that's working for a startup or scale up? What are the traits of successful people that you've seen the last 10 to 15 years?
I think it's the passion that Yusuf spoke about. Really, the passion that you want to help build a great company. I think it's the ability to work in a more chaotic environment than the more structured corporate environment. So I've seen people. I come from a corporate background as well, so maybe I'm the exception. But for most part, they find it difficult to work in the more flexible, chaotic, dynamic environment that a startups consist. And it's also important that you're flexible to do stuff without having a strict job profile. Because I always say, if you're a startup, and especially in the smaller phases, I mean, you cannot buy a whole orchestra. So every person playing an instrument has to be able to play multiple instruments, because everybody needs to act as a team and do everything what needs to be done. So the willingness to go the extra mile and do stuff outside your profile and do stuff which might be not exciting to do, but what needs to be done. So the mentality of getting it done to make sure that we're successful and that customers are happy and everything works is really crucial to succeed.
I love how you explained that, Jimmy. the orchestras, it's very nice. You need to be able to play the banjo and the guitar
otherwise,
the drums.
I mean, if you say no, I only play the flute, then yeah,
maybe in 10 years we talk
exactly.
again. And if we sit down again, the three of us in say 3 years, what type of conversation are we having then?
No, I think in 3 years' time we would have a good presence both in Europe and in US. It's our ambition also to, I think also next year, because obviously it's a big market, US. We already speak to US investors who are very excited about the product. We already have a few US customers, and our experience is that they're more open to working with startups. They have bigger budgets, shorter sales cycles. So and also I spoke to a few other startups in cyber. They said, well, my mistake was to wait too long when going to the US. So we don't want to wait that long. But I think in 3 years' time we would have a good presence. We would have a good business and already hopefully some attempting offers from big companies that would have bought our company. But we're trying to build it for years ourselves first before doing that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. So Uncle Sam is watching you guys.
Yeah.
And you're watching Uncle Sam. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, super interesting. I would love to follow the journey.
Oh, we'll be back.
Yeah, no, let's agree upon that. And maybe to wrap up this very insightful podcast conversation, what would you advise like first-time founders in the cybersecurity space? Because I know you pivoted, but if you can, in 1 or 2 sentences for the both of you, explain like what do you need to know, like on the good things, but also the hard things. Because it's also work-life balance, family situation. So, what would you advise in like really 1 or 2 sentences? What would you share with other people that would consider becoming a cybersecurity entrepreneur right now? Jimmy, starting with you.
I think it's very difficult. So I think one of the key things that you need to have is a really good problem to solve. And I think the problem with cybersecurity is obviously the forecast is that spend on cybersecurity will increase. So that creates startups that think, okay, we can make money in cybersecurity because there's a lot of money. But you also hear when you speak to CISOs, when you talk to investors, there's a lot of tools, new tools popping up in cybersecurity, pretend to make organizations more secure. But the problem is there are already a lot of tools. So CISOs are looking to reduce the number of tools. And another tool which pretends to make life safer has a difficult job proving that it actually is the case. So you really need to have a good problem, and a problem that translates into business value. And that's, I think, the good thing that we have. We translate into business value, and I think that's the key element that a founder should really be convinced of, that it's a big problem that they are solving, but it also can translate into business value, because he needs to explain to a CISO why he should buy their product.
Yeah, the return on investment with VirtualMetric is very, very clear. That's really
It helps a lot.
It helps a lot. And Yusuf, for you?
I would say don't try to challenge the giants, and don't try to create a new domain or something very different, because adaptation also would be harder. So in that case, just focus on a specific area, specific maybe challenge, like problem, and try to solve that in a best way. It can be like the most technological way or the simplest way, but focus on that area and try to bring that solution to those customers. And yeah, try to do good networking. Find the best people in the domain and talk with them. Share your passion with them. So if you share your passion with those people, it will eventually come back to you as a good result.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So network, and also don't challenge the giants, but try to work with them and put like a little add-on on what they offer and become buddies, basically.
I mean, I learned that after 10 years, so just a shortcut for the for the new people.
But that's why I love doing this. Like your knowledge and wisdom also comes from the failures or the traps that you have fallen into, which every founder goes through. So if you can share that with the audience and they learn already from that, then we can help them prevent stepping into the same loopholes. So that is great. Yeah, we always end with the last question, and that's the same for all of our guests. And I think it's nice to ask the both of you. Starting with you, Jimmy, if you can send one signal message to all the CISOs across the world, what would that one signal message be?
That would be invest in a security data pipeline platform to have that as a strategic element in your SOC architecture, because it will help increase threat alerts. It will increase doing reporting performance and automating by making the SOC more efficient. So it's a really strategic, should be a strategic pillar in any SOC architecture to have this as a component.
Great. Yusuf, to you.
I agree with Jimmy. I agree with Jimmy, and I would say just bring the right data to your security stack. So try to make the better security lake, data lake, and then just bring the right data, and a security data pipeline platform is the best solution for that.
Awesome, guys. It was really a pleasure to have you on the show, and I really look forward to catching up in a couple years and see what the future has in store. But I think it's looking bright. And also, I know Tint Capital, Reinhard has also been here on the show. And I think it's also an excellent partner to help you achieve more growth. So looking forward to.
Thanks, Reinhard, for connecting us in the first place.
That's indeed true. Shout out to Reinhard. Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Laurens. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay safe, stay curious, and until next time in the district.